Down is Up's asking, what does everyone think about the new documentary on George? Well, it's funny you asked that. I actually just got around to finally watching Brandon Salisbury's new documentary, George A. Romero's Resident Evil, today. I bought it on Amazon. Bought it. I didn't rent it because I knew I'm going to want to watch this a couple of times, if for nothing else, just kind of take it all in and kind of build um, an opinion on it. Um, so I bought it on Amazon, watched it today, and I plan on doing like a full review of this. I'm gonna kind of give the short, abbreviated review. So I'm planning on doing like a full review video of it, probably in the next few days, and give my full thoughts. But basically, my thoughts on the documentary, I fucking loved it. I thought it was pretty amazing. Like, I didn't know what to expect going in. I was like, well, a lot of the times when I see a Romero documentary, and there's a lot of good ones out there, but a lot of times when I watch something on Romero, it's like, oh, it's shit I've it's shit I've heard before. And not to say like, oh, I know everything, so well, what is there to teach me? It's like, that's not true at all. But a lot of people kind of come at it from the same angle. And so going into it, I really wasn't sure what to expect. But I absolutely loved it. I think it's fantastic. I think Brandon really did a hell of a job on this thing. It was depressing at the end. I'll say that. Like, I kind of, when the movie was over, I was kind of depressed because Brandon does a fantastic job. The last 15 minutes or so of the film is kind of talking about George's death and kind of getting stories from different people. I mean, there's interviews from Matt Blasey and Michael Felcher and George Demick and Jim Crut, Norman England. I mean, it's if you're a Romero fan, if you've been a Romero fan for a long time, these are names that everybody kind of knows, and just fans like us, but have contributed to Romero's legacy and all that. For years and years and years. I mean, a lot of what I know is due to guys like Blasey and Felcher and Larry and guys like that just have been doing it for so long and have found so much of this information out. And John's kind of is that guy now. Like, John's finding out all this information. I'm just like, wow, that's pretty fucking awesome. Like, I love having John on the show because I'm just like, I just want to listen. I'm just like, okay, tell me more, tell me more. So like watching this documentary, I mean, I love Resident Evil. That I've talked about that before. That was kind of the thing that got me into the zombie genre and kind of introduced me to George Romero to begin with. So it was just two things that I love, passionate for, and really, played a major role in my life. And the way that Brandon kind of presents this documentary, the way he kind of puts it together, the first part is kind of setting the table, kind of telling you George's history and how he got to where he was, and the history of Resident Evil and how that game became what it was, and then how these two got together and how it kind of fell apart, didn't really work out the way that it should, and the way that George was kind of hoping that it would at the time. But I guess the two main points that I kind of left that the film kind of debating in my head were, one, if George was able to make his vision of the movie, which I'm inspired now. I want to go back, and because I have the Resident Evil screenplay, I just haven't read it in forever and ever. I'm inspired now to go back and reread that whole screenplay. And it's out there online if you guys want to look for it. I think you can just Google George Romero's Resident Evil screenplay and you should be able to find it. I want to go back and reread that. And the question is, would George have pulled it off at that time? Would it have been a success? Where would it have taken George's career going forward? That's always been a big what if in my mind, is like, what if George would have made this movie? Where would it have, how would it have blah, 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 where would it have taken his career? So yeah, that it left me thinking that, as well as like, I don't know if I kind of contemplate like how if George's heart was truly in this project, or if it was more George trying to get ahead of it to try to take charge of something that he felt like was being taken from him. Because like the zombie genre, I mean, in the 80s, there were zombie films and stuff, but Resident Evil, when the game came out, was pretty, pretty upfront, saying, "Oh yeah, this is kind of an homage to Romero and all this stuff." And I felt like maybe George was kind of like, "Okay, well, this is my thing. Like, I want in on it. Like, I want to be a part of this." So I don't know if it was really a story that he was passionate about doing, but I think George wanted to be a part of it in some way, and as a writer, director, whatnot. And even if he wasn't a writer, if he would just direct it, I think he would have been happy with that. But I think the way that they went all about that, and the story that they kind of tell in that documentary, when it has to do with, the producers and the top guy at Constantine Films, was really interesting. I learned a lot. So I would say if you're a casual Romero fan, you'll like it, and if you're a hardcore Romero fan, you'll really like it. So I highly, highly recommend it. And I messaged Brandon today and told him how much I enjoyed it. I thought done a fantastic job, and it explains why he's already working on other things now. He's a lot of opportunities are opening up, and um, very, very proud of him. I think he did a fantastic job. And you can tell it was made by someone who loved George and was passionate about George. Like, you can always tell um, when somebody does something you know just because I think this is a profitable idea, or this is some, but you can tell, like, Brandon is a huge Romero fan, and it shows. It really does.